Alright then, we're back at season 10, ladies and gents, and back to the whiteboard too. And for the first time ever, drumroll, we will have the first sample conversation in Romanian on the topic at hand. This one is not going to be that short, but not that long either. There are some tricky things to consider about the conditional in Romanian that all will be covered in this video, such as the way they need to get used, so the use cases, and their correlations to the English modal verbs. So can, could, should, and the such. But I will leave the others, such as the correlation to English of the conditional clauses, for another video, when we will have learned the conditional perfect and the subjunctive perfect. See what I did there? Future perfect. No? You don't know what that means? Then you should check out this video on future perfect. Before we start, let's thank the patrons now on the screen and invite you to become a member on Patreon, where I will start releasing previews and trailers for the free members. Yes, free members, that's a thing. And also where you can join with a free trial on the top tier, Philanthrop, only during the month of May, so you'd better rush before it's gone. Right, off we go to the conditional.
So we're back with the whiteboard, and this time we talk about conditional, and as we have spoken already in the intro, first we will cover the definition, what it means really, this conditional. We have here two words. First, the conditional, and second, the condition. I want to touch briefly on this because conditional, even in English, here we're talking both in Romanian and in English. I want, as always, to make those equivalents, those correlations, so it's easier for you. So conditional in English is would. In many situations is just would. Sometimes it's would have. But we will not talk about this would have today. This is for another conversation, another video, probably another couple of videos actually, as we will see the difference between would and would have. Then there's this condition, which is if. Why is this important? Because it stands in the name, right? So to have a conditional, you need a condition. So you need something if. It's not something that is certain. It's something that depends or depended or will depend on something. I am not going to cover, and I will mention this a bit more in the use cases, but I will not cover all the if clauses in this one. There will be a separate video for the if clauses, as stated in the intro. So basically what you need to know is when you have a would in English, you should use the conditional, and most of the times you will also have a condition in it. So there will be usually two sentences. So you'll have a phrase sometimes of, if this happens, then blah blah blah. Yeah, so this is usually a conditional, but in Romanian there are other use cases that in English they don't translate exactly to a conditional, and we will mention them in the use cases part just in a bit. So now that we know what this conditional is, let's see how you create it in Romanian, the build, so to speak. If you wonder why I said so to speak, it's because in Romanian we do tend to say quite a lot, even though it's quite annoying, so to speak. You can see that in the latest reel, or by the time this publishes, probably one of the latest reels, so to speak. Să zic așa. So, build, auxiliary plus infinitive. This is the auxiliary we're looking at. The infinitive, I think it's not needed to mention this. If you don't really know or understand the infinitive, there will be a specific video about it, but I think it is well covered so far in the season 3 present tenses. So I'm not going to touch too much on the infinitive, but the auxiliary is quite important and it's quite confusing. So why? Eu aș, tu ai, el ea ar, noi am, voi ați, ei ele ar. If you haven't covered the perfect compus, you should check that out. But if you have, then you will see some similarities, right? Because in perfect compus, you will get eu am, that's an A, yeah? So let's say eu am, tu ai, el a, noi am, voi ați, and ei ele au. So you will see that for this one is the same, for this one is the same, for this one is the same. So there are quite a lot of them that are similar. Now, how can you spot the difference and know when to say one or the other? Well, it comes obviously with the second part. So the infinitive is for conditional. Yeah. And for this, which is the perfect compus, you will use a participle. If all of you are confused with all this grammar stuff, then an example would be or aș, yeah? Aș vrea versus am vrut. So if you look at this, you should spot quite easily which one is the conditional and which one is the perfect compus. So this one is obviously the conditional. It uses an infinitive and the correct auxiliary from here. And this one is the perfect compus because it uses a participle and this guy here. So that's one thing to really focus on, because people really tend to use, I mean, it's a bit harder. It depends really on the order you learn it, but so far I've heard a lot of conditional being used wrong instead of the past used wrong. So you will hear probably eu aș vrut or stuff like that, which is confusing, really confusing. So that, and now let's have a look at the verb. I chose earlier vrea, so we can have a look at it. Eu aș vrea, tu ai vrea, el ea ar vrea, noi am vrea, voi ați vrea, and ei, ele ar vrea. You can see every single time we have here a infinitive and then the auxiliary from here. This is actually the equivalent in English. So you would translate this, right? Like I would, yeah, would from here. I would want, but either this or with dori. So if you have instead of vrea, dori, both of them are very similar to the English would like. Okay, so this is very similar to the English would like. So you get a little bonus tip here. If you want to say would like in English, it's either aș vrea or aș dori. Probably it's closer to aș dori, but both of them are, in my opinion, equally correct. So that's probably more of a special verb, but it literally goes the same with whichever you want. So if you have a bea, aduce, citi, it doesn't really matter. The infinitive will never, if you know what infinitive is, again, the infinitive will never change. It really doesn't matter. There are not any irregularities with the conditional, so you are actually safe to go. The reason this video is longer than usual is not really because of how to build it, it's more of how to use it, because that is for sure the more complicated part. So this is how to build it. Now let's move to the use cases. This is a very important part, and I'm going to take them one by one. So how to use and when to use the conditional. Use cases. First, it describes a desire. This is also in the same category, kind of. So, aș veni și eu, I would come as well. You express your wish to come, your desire to come. Wish, a dori. That's why I said this could be in the same category. You could also say aș vrea să vin or aș dori să vin. So those two are quite well connected. But, you could say it with aș veni and avoid this conjunctive or subjunctive, aș vrea să vin. Or you can just say this. Hope that makes sense. Then the second part is a conditioned wish. This is very, 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 very close to the condition that I said here, the if. So if then. So there is something that kind of stops you or stops the subject. So aș mânca o pizza dacă ar fi mai sănătoasă. You would eat a pizza if it were healthier. So what do you want? Yeah? What do you wish? What do you desire? You wish to eat a pizza, but it's not healthy. Here, this is something that I'm not going to talk about today. This is, you see here, ar fi, and you see here, it were. This is basically the if clauses, and there will be, as I said, a special video on that. But until then, I'm just going to move on. So, aș mânca o pizza, I would eat, right? That's as easy as it gets. And you need an if, which in Romanian is obviously dacă, but sometimes you might see instead of please work, sometimes you might see a de or de, no, just de. There is another one that we will see in a second. So de or dacă. So you will hear de, but less frequently. Dacă is the main one, for sure. Then we go to the third one, an imaginary comparison. This one is a very, very cultural one, I would say. So an imaginary comparison. It's something like as if. You see here? Us Romanians really like to say as if a lot. They like to create this exaggerated comparisons. So you see here, scrie de parcă ai fi poet. You're writing as if you are a poet, yeah? So you're making this exaggerated comparison sometimes because it's funny, so it's part of the sense of humor. Other times is to show that, to mock someone. Another very cultural thing, to mock someone. And that's expressed with the conditional. Scrie de parcă. Also you have this de parcă here, as if. You see it's with de, this de, not with dacă. As if, de parcă ai fi poet. So I would really add this to probably one of the higher levels in Romanian, because you also need to see the nuances, the tonality, to see when somebody, I don't know, mocks you, just makes fun in general. It really depends. I mean, if I say, scrie de parcă ai fi poet, that's a mockery. But if somebody, for example, laughs and says, scrie de parcă ai fi poet, that probably is a bit more just fun in general. Probably the more serious somebody is with this, or if they raise an eyebrow, the more sarcastic or the bigger the mockery. And then we have the politeness for persuasion. This is a very specific thing that I wanted to mention because Romanians tend to do it a bit more than they should, I think. So, what does politeness for persuasion mean? Let's look at the example. Te-aș ruga să-mi împrumuți niște bani. So, you would put this really strange conditional at the beginning to express something that you would want, but you don't want to be too direct by using a te rog. Yeah, so the present tense, you would use the conditional. This is something that happens more often than not in Romanian. The way to address somebody when you want something with a conditional, because of, again, the avoidance to be direct. You are not sure if they would lend you the money, yeah? Or maybe you're too shy, or maybe you think it's too big of a deal, and you use this conditional. So you're trying to get something, yeah? You try to persuade somebody, you try to get money, and you try to be more polite instead of saying it with the present tense. Don't say te rog, you say te-aș ruga. Would you mind lending me some money? This is a very approximate translation, probably the closest I can think of in English. So then we have the if clauses. Now with if clauses, this is a very long story. We saw this here, ar fi, yeah, with if it were. Where is the eraser here? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I don't think this will ever go away. Anyways, so this is one example of the if clauses, but I put it in red and with an asterisk because this will not be talked about today. In English, there are four kind of, with a present one, and a variation. Like you can combine them pretty much as you wish. But in Romanian, it's actually easier than in English because you have less possibilities. But again, we will talk about that in another video.
If you got all the way here in this video, I think you should consider subscribing to the Romanian Academy down below. It would help me with the algorithm. But if you also like the video, you give the chance to other Romanian enthusiasts just like you to join this awesome community and learn more things about the Romanian language or Romania in general. Should we get back to the video? Let's do it.
And we arrived to probably my favorite part of the conditional, where you talk about those modals, the modal verbs. There are quite a lot in English and not so many in Romanian, as it was with the if clauses. So I put here some categories. Let me separate them, maybe like this. So you see, can I draw a line? I think that would be really useful. So yeah, let's draw this line like that, and let's draw another line here. So there are three things I would like to cover. There is this first one where must or have to is trebuie. Then should or ought to is ar trebui. Now what's the difference? Trebuie is something that, again, as it says in English, you must or have to do. It's something compulsory. Then should or ought to is ar trebui, something that you have to do, but is just recommended. It's a strong recommendation to do it. And let's look at the examples. Trebuie să ajungă imediat. She must arrive soon. If you don't know why here it's ajungă, check the subjunctive video, first video of the season. Am vorbit cu ea la telefon, ar trebui să ajungă în 5 minute. I have talked to her on the phone. She should arrive in 5 minutes. So here you're certain, in the first one, you are certain that she must arrive. You have enough, for example, information. Here you have talked to her on the phone, and she should arrive in 5 minutes, but you're not sure. Like you it's as close as it could be. The difference between trebuie and ar trebui, as it is with must and should, that this one is almost certain, while this one you could cross your heart, for example, because you're, let's say, 100%. Well, you cannot be 100% sure, right? But you assume you are. So that's the difference. If you don't want to think about those percentages of assurance, then just think that must is trebuie, have to is trebuie, should is ar trebui, and ought to is ar trebui. You need to bear in mind that these two do not conjugate. If you don't know what that means, is they do not change depending on the person. You have to see, for example, like trebuie să ajungă. This is she must arrive. But if you had I must arrive, it would be trebuie să ajung. So you don't conjugate trebuie, you conjugate the conjunctive. So you don't conjugate this verb, you conjugate the one that follows. Keep trebuie and ar trebui always the same. Keep ar, actually, this is probably more important. Keep ar trebui. You never say am trebui. That's something I heard quite a lot as well. This doesn't work. You could maybe. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm really not going to go there. Anyways, so the second one, can and could. A putea. You see, I put this in the infinitive. That means you can conjugate it. Here it's a set form. Can, a putea, could, a putea in conditional. You see, this one is the base form and this one is the conditional form as well. So can and could, that's probably is quite easy. Can you pass me the salt? Can you give me the salt? Poți să îmi dai sarea? Ai putea să mă ajuți cu mutarea mâine? Could you help me with the move tomorrow? It's the same kind of principle that we have discussed already, and we have seen it with the politeness, with the desire. So what you basically say with this is, with both of them, is that the first one, the one that you use in present, is just a desire, and you're asking someone directly. With the second one, ar trebui, and ar putea, or ai putea, because this one you actually conjugate it in conditional. You express the same kind of wish or desire, but less directly, so you are a bit more polite. That's kind of the idea overall with a conditional. You know, this is the 101. So the final one is probably the most difficult one that you might need a bit of time and practice, because also you need a dative pronoun. So am nevoie versus îmi trebuie. Obviously this is conjugated in eu form, but you can use it in any forms. You can have ai nevoie versus îți trebuie. Yeah. So need and need. There are both of them mean need, but they are different kinds of need. So let's look at the examples. Am nevoie de niște pantaloni noi. I need new trousers. Am văzut la magazin o rochie și acum îmi trebuie. I saw a dress. Oh, Jesus. I saw a dress at... Do you want me to edit you? Can I edit you? Yes. Address at the shop. So, am văzut la magazin o rochie și acum îmi trebuie. I saw a dress at the shop and now I need it. Now, there is, as I said, a difference between am nevoie and îmi trebuie. This first one is a need. What's the right word here? This kind of need is more real, while this one is more made up. So, am văzut la magazin o rochie. That means you saw a dress. That is a necessity that came from this one. You don't need that dress, but you think you do. Yeah, so this is the easiest way I would put. This is a real one. This is a made up one. So, for example, in this first situation, you basically broke all your trousers, and that's it. You don't have any other ones, so you need some new ones. While in the second one, you saw this dress and then you think that you need it. There's a difference. In English there isn't, but in Romanian there is. And as I said, you conjugate this îmi. Well, you don't conjugate. You change this îmi. You don't change the trebuie. And then am nevoie, a avea nevoie. This is not to do with a conditional. The way to say I need is a avea. So conjugate the to have and nevoie. Cool. And then finally, I want to go to a little conversation just to see this in practice. I'm going to read it as well. So this is going to be the first time we do anything like this in the Romanian Academy grammar videos so far. If I could move it a bit. Okay, there you go. So I think this, you can see it. So first I'm going to read it, and then I'll tell you what you can do to practice a bit your conditional. So, dacă ar fi frumos weekendul acesta, am putea merge la munte. Da, ar fi minunat. Aș aduce eu grătarul. Și eu aș pregăti câteva salate. V-ar plăcea? Desigur. Dacă aș avea timp, aș face și un desert. Ar fi grozav. L-aș invita și pe Mihai dacă sunteți de acord. Sigur, cu cât mai mulți, cu atât mai bine. Dar atunci ar trebui să vă iau eu cu mașina ca să încăpem. Dacă am merge de vreme, am putea evita traficul. Bună idee! Aș propune să plecăm pe la 7 dimineața. Atunci, dacă totul e în regulă, ne vedem sâmbătă dimineața. Perfect! So, you can listen to this again if you want. You can play it back. But the main idea is for you to practice the conditional, to understand first where is the conditional, so you can just go through this. I'm going to do a sample on the first one. So, yeah, we have this ar fi. This is a conditional. You can underline it. You can do the same with the rest of them. Then what you can look at is what person it is conjugated in. If it's the first person singular, if it's the second person plural, whatever. So for this one specifically, it's the third person singular. It, if it would be nice. And then another thing you can do is check what kind of uses based on point 3 here you have. Most of them in this text will be kind of similar, but it's good to check their uses as well. I put a couple of different ones so they are not the same, but most of the times it's just a classic would. And this is for conditional present. This is all conditional present, by the way. There is a conditional perfect that will be, I assume, either the next or the second next video, because I think we might need to cover the conjunctive perfect first before we do the conditional perfect. So I'll leave this for you to finish in your own time. You can print screen and draw it. And if you're not on Discord, or if you feel like you want to share them, I think that will be even better. So go there under the YouTube channel. There's a special channel for YouTube videos on Discord. Links in the description. And yeah, let's start a conversation about the conditional.
Just before you go, I want to let you know that since last week on Calendly, there are not only trial sessions for booking classes with me, but also trial coaching sessions. So if you book a slot with me I will be able to help you in the right direction on your Romanian journey. For that to happen, check the Calendly link down in the description. Nice one then. You ought to have a wonderful day, yeah? I mean it. Oh, and for more fun shenanigans, I will be posting on the Romanian Academy TikTok, so make sure you check that out. There you get the full version, while here on YouTube you get a shorter one. While you do all that, I'm off. So until the next one, la revedere.